Welcome to Crushed Husband. Please like the video and subscribe. Let's begin. The envelope was thick, glossy, and gold trimmed. One of those pretentious custom jobs that practically screams money. When I saw Mr. Brent Foster written in calligraphy across the front, I knew exactly what it was, and I laughed. Loud. My name's Brent. I'm 34. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment in Akron, Ohio. The kind of place with flickering hallway lights and neighbors who argue through the walls. So, yeah, not exactly the kind of guy you'd expect to get invited to a wedding at Lake Harbor Resort with a 6-course dinner and valet parking. But when Derek sends an invite, you better believe it's not about family. It's about appearances. Derek, my older brother, the golden child, a hotshot architect with shiny teeth, a perfect fiancé, and a house that's been featured in Architectural Digest. He's always been the center of the Carter universe. My parents, Richard and Elaine, made damn sure of that. They'd go to his soccer games, his awards banquets, hell, even his stupid debate club tournaments. Me, I was background noise, quiet, easy to ignore. They liked it that way, and I learned to stay out of the way. So, when this invite landed in my mailbox, right address, wrong intention, I knew what it really meant. It wasn't a request, it was a warning. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. I wasn't invited to celebrate. I was being summoned, trotted out like a sideshow act. The black sheep brother they could dress up for a day and shove into the corner while they drank champagne and toasted perfection. I could already see my mom sniffing at my jacket, whispering, "Couldn't you have worn something nicer?" But here's what they didn't know. I'd been planning for this moment, not for weeks, for years. Every word, every file, every recording tucked away for the right time. And now, the timing was perfect. I packed light. Just a gray suit and a laptop bag. No tux, no tie, no gifts. The second I walked into that lakeside reception hall, it hit me like a slap to the chest. The looks, the tight smiles, the too loud laughter that died when I got close. The place smelled like lilacs and entitlement. There were name tags and place cards and a freaking champagne fountain. And not a single person looked happy to see me. Richard glanced up from the main table and gave me a flat nod. Like a man acknowledging a waiter. Elaine didn't even bother standing. I grabbed a drink from the bar and stood by the entrance. Watching them pretend they didn't see me. Fine, I was used to that. But they weren't ready for what was coming. I wasn't standing there more than a minute before I felt the chill slither up my spine. That meant Elaine was close. "There you are," she said, voice flat but tight. Her perfume hit me first. Same overpowering Chanel she wore to Derek's graduation. She looked me up and down like I'd rolled in from a truck stop. "That's the suit you brought?" I took a slow sip of my drink. "It's clean." She forced a smile. "Just behave tonight. Please, no surprises." She didn't wait for a response. She turned and walked off like she'd done her part. I guess I should have been flattered she spoke to me at all. The reception was packed, rows of white chairs with gold bows, waiters carrying trays of lobster bites and champagne. I recognized some faces from TV, local politicians, a guy from a bank commercial, and one woman I was pretty sure had testified in Congress. All of them buzzing around Derek like bees to sugar. Me? I got seated at the overflow table, back corner, under a speaker that buzzed every time someone tapped the mic. Great view of the emergency exit. I was sandwiched between Aunt May, who forgot my name, and Cousin Ted, who spent the first 10 minutes explaining crypto like it was still 2021. Half the table hadn't even noticed I was there. Then Derek took the mic. He strutted up like he was hosting the Oscars, wearing a white tux jacket and that fake humble smile he used in yearbook photos. The room hushed like a church. "Thank you all for being here," he started, voice loud and smooth. I promised to keep this short, but I couldn't resist sharing a few memories. The screen behind him lit up with photos. Him in front of skyscrapers, standing on cliffs in Europe, laughing with his fiancée in Paris. His voice narrated over it all, like he was giving a TED Talk about how awesome his life was. The guests ate it up, clapping, laughing, nodding like trained seals. Then it shifted. A new slide popped up. It was me. High school yearbook photo, Braces, bad haircut, the works. The caption underneath? Divorced, unemployed, deadbeat. The laughter came fast, loud, cruel. I sat frozen, not surprised, just still. The next photo was me at a cookout 5 years ago. Plate of ribs in one hand, cheap beer in the other. The caption? Living his best, couch life. More laughter. And right there at the head table. Janice, my ex, let out a high-pitched giggle. She even nudged Derek like they were sharing an inside joke. Elaine didn't blink. Richard kept sipping his wine. No one, not one of them, looked shocked, because they knew. They approved this. Even the crowd started catching on, that this wasn't just a fun little slideshow. It was a roast, and I was the punchline. But I didn't flinch. I didn't speak, because this was exactly what I needed to happen. I kept my eyes on the screen. I wanted their faces burned into my brain. The way they laughed at me, the way they dismissed me. All of it. The final slide landed. A photo of Derek and me as kids. He's smiling. I'm cut halfway out of the frame. The caption read, "Some stars shine brighter." The lights came back on. Derek gave a mock shrug. Just a little humor. Gotta keep things light, right? Scattered chuckles, some awkward claps. I glanced at the bar. The bartender wouldn't meet my eyes. I pushed my chair back and stood up. Not to walk out. Not to make a scene. Just to check my phone. Right on schedule. Everything was ready. I tapped the button. The projector stuttered, went black for a second, then lit up with a new title in bold white letters across a black screen. Out of the silence, the truth about family abuse. The ballroom didn't go quiet. It froze. The DJ blinked like he'd lost control of his own board. Derek spun around, frowning, trying to figure out what just happened. I stood by the back table, phone still in hand, completely calm. Then the numbers started ticking up in the corner of the screen. Live viewers, 200, 4,000, 12,000, 50,000. Gasps followed, murmurs, cell phones came out. First clip loaded, audio only. My father's voice, clear and cold. Brent was always weak, never worth investing in. It echoed off the glass chandeliers like a slap. People looked toward the front table. Richard didn't move. Next clip, seconds later, Derek's voice cocky and sharp. He's not even a man, can't have kids, can't hold a job. I'm surprised he even showed up. A woman in the front row dropped her fork. Elaine went stiff. Her wine glass trembled in her hand. Janice shifted in her seat. Derek let out a short laugh, too loud. He's joking, right? This is some kind of prank? No one laughed with him, not this time. I stepped forward, walked down the side of the ballroom like I belonged there, and stopped near the mic stand. Derek was still facing the screen, trying to wave the DJ over like he could shut it down. He couldn't. I reached for the mic. He turned too late. I had it in my hand. I didn't yell. I didn't smile. I spoke clear and calm, just loud enough to cut through the noise. There's more. I looked around the room, at the faces that had just laughed at me 15 minutes ago. Now they were pale, confused. The next file rolled, my dad again. If we'd stopped at Derek, we'd have been better off. Brent was a mistake. Then Elaine's voice layered over it. He's just pathetic. Always has been. Always will be. Dead silence. The room was split, some watching the screen, some staring at the family table. Derek stepped forward. All right, enough. You made your point. I didn't budge. He motioned to the staff. Turn it off. Cut the audio. The screen glitched, then kept playing, because I controlled it. From my phone. Janice stood now. Her arms were crossed tight, lips pressed. She knew what was coming. One more voice joined the mix. Hers. Brent, he was easy to manipulate. Sad little puppy. I just needed him to help me get through law school. Then I moved up. You could hear her laughing. The video wasn't recorded in secret. She'd been bragging. The room shifted. People whispered. One woman looked sick. A man in a suit stepped back like the floor might crack. Then the next message flashed across the screen in bold letters. Evidence verified. Legal team watching. A. Connolly, J.D. That name landed like a hammer. Connolly was her fiancé. The crowd turned toward her. She looked like she might run. Derek snapped. "Brent, enough! You're done! Stop this!" He charged. Security blocked him before he got 3 steps. I tilted my head. "Relax," I said, keeping my voice even. "You love presentations, remember?" Then I cued the next file. The video was clear. Bedroom camera, Janice, Derek, laughing, together. The timestamp, months before the divorce. Derek's bride stood up at the head table, her face white, bouquet forgotten. She didn't cry, didn't scream. She just walked straight out of the hall, and behind her, one by one, the guests began to follow. The doors hadn't even shut behind Derek's fiancée before I hit play again. My mother's voice came first this time, crisp and steady, like she was giving a weather report. "We should have stopped after Derek. Brent was a mistake. I told Richard from the beginning. He was never going to be anything." The sound system was crystal clear. She was speaking to someone, probably a friend, laughing softly as she added, "Just so pathetic." He was born lost. I turned slowly to face her. She was frozen at the table, clutching her pearls like someone had pulled a gun. But she didn't speak, didn't deny it. Another video cut in. Janice again, slouched on a couch, wine glass in hand. Brent was so easy to manipulate. I just cried a little, told him I needed help, and bam, he'd do anything. He actually thought I loved him. This one wasn't just embarrassing. It was brutal. Real. The screen faded again. Then a new message popped up, bold and centered. "The evidence is verified. The legal team is watching. A. Connolly, J.D." And there it was, the knife turn. Janice stared at the screen like it had betrayed her. The blood drained from her face. She backed up from the table, arms limp at her sides. People turned to look at her, not with curiosity anymore, but disgust. Then came Derek. "Turn it off!" he shouted, voice cracking as he tried to push past the security guy in a black blazer. He lunged again. Security grabbed both arms and yanked him back like a drunk trying to storm the stage. "Relax," I said into the mic, keeping it flat. "You love presentations, remember?" That shut him up. I tapped once more. The screen glitched, then played the final clip. Bedroom camera footage. No nudity, no graphic content, just enough to make the point. Derek's voice, Janice's giggle, the two of them wrapped up in each other, clear as day. The date stamp, 9 months before our divorce was finalized. The gasps came like thunder. Someone near the front let out a soft, "Oh my God." I didn't need to explain it. The bride didn't wait for anyone. She stood, smoothed the front of her dress with shaking hands, and walked straight down the aisle like she was heading for a grave. A couple guests followed her, then more. The chain reaction had started. One man turned to Richard and said, "You let this happen?" Richard didn't answer. He looked straight ahead like he was watching the Titanic sink in slow motion. Elaine sat stone still, not crying, not moving, just stuck. Janice tried to speak. "That video he hacked, that's not..." But no one was listening anymore. A woman from Derek's firm shook her head and whispered, "This is career-ending." And then the phones came out, not just to text, to record. I could hear it, the clicks, the whispers, the murmurs of, "It's live," and "It's real," and "They're all done." Derek tried again. "This is insane. You're just bitter. You're nothing." I looked right at him. Maybe. But now everyone knows who you really are. The lights dimmed slightly. Not on purpose, just a flicker. But it was enough to make the room feel colder. The guests were moving toward the exits like a fire alarm had gone off. My phone buzzed. Viewers. 300,000 applause. The night wasn't unraveling. It was detonation. Richard stood up so fast his chair crashed backward. "You little bastard," he barked, voice ripping through the ballroom. "You think you can embarrass me? At my son's wedding?" He wasn't red. He was purple, veins bulging, hands clenched like he wanted to put them around my throat. I didn't flinch. I just tapped the next file. The screen blinked. A spreadsheet loaded, full of line items, routing numbers, dummy LLC names. Then audio rolled, grainy but clear. "Just move it through Denver, keep it under the quarterly radar. Bonuses don't get flagged if we call it consulting." Richard's voice. No question. We do it every year. Nobody checks. Just use the ghost ledger. Murmurs turned into panic. A man near the front row stood up, pulled out his phone, and walked out mid-call. Another followed. Then a woman whispered, "That's criminal. That's straight-up embezzlement." Richard was frozen now, still standing, but no longer shouting. He tried to speak. "That's out of context." I spoke into the mic. "There's more." The screen filled again. PDFs, tax records, internal emails, dozens of them. "Brent," Richard took one step forward. "You don't know what you're doing." I ignored him. "Play the video," I said. The screen cut to security footage from an office, Richard in a private meeting, counting stacks of cash and handing an envelope across a polished desk. "We write it off as a retreat. Just keep the press out of it." Live viewer count jumped in the top corner. 1.2 million. A news ticker appeared on someone's phone in the second row. Breaking: alleged embezzlement exposed at Carter Development Group. Then another: wedding turns into scandal, unfolding live. Derek rushed toward the mic, trying to wrestle back control. Okay. Listen, this is all fake. He's just bitter. He's got no job, no life." I turned to him. "Then explain this." The next screen popped. Internal memo. Carter Dev Group. Do not report these payments to the board. His voice dropped. "That could be doctored." I looked out at the crowd. "It's real. Legal chain of custody. Dates, emails, source files. You'll all get copies if you want." Some guests had already started filming. Others were leaving, shaking their heads. 3 men in the second row, business partners of Richard's, stood and walked out together. One of them tossed his napkin onto the table like it was radioactive. Derek kept pacing, trying to talk over the growing storm. "He's twisting this. None of it matters. Look around. This is a celebration, not a damn courtroom." Another headline buzzed across someone's screen. Fraud, infidelity, lies, Carter family, wedding implodes live. I stepped away from the mic and pulled out a folder from my bag. Hard copies. I walked straight to Richard's table and dropped them right in front of him. All signed, all time-stamped. I've had them for years. I was just waiting. His hands shook as he flipped through the first few pages. He didn't even make it halfway. Then his eyes went pale, his jaw slack, because he knew. It was over. I walked back to the mic, adjusted it slightly, and said what I'd been waiting years to say. This is only the beginning. I didn't wait for the room to settle. I pulled up the next slide, simple white text against black. The lie that defined me. Some people were already crying. Some were still filming. My parents weren't moving. Derek was pacing like a trapped animal. Then the screen changed again. A scanned medical report. My name at the top. Brent Foster. Date stamped 2 years ago. Clean. Bold words highlighted. Fertility normal. I let it hang for a second. A few people squinted, confused. Then the next file popped up beside it. Another report. Derek Carter. Same format. Different result. Fertility. Irreversible azoospermia. The gasp rolled through the crowd like a wave. One woman dropped her champagne. Another grabbed her husband's arm. Derek stopped cold. Elaine went white. Richard's knuckles turned purple as he gripped the edge of the table like it was the only thing keeping him upright. I didn't need to yell. I just said it. They needed a perfect son. I stepped back to the mic, scanned the faces. All those people who'd spent decades calling me worthless behind my back. So they lied. They made me the scapegoat. Fed Janice a lie, fed me a lie, said I couldn't have kids. I looked directly at Derek and ruined my marriage so he could keep his illusion intact. The room didn't just go quiet, it stopped breathing. Elaine's lips parted like she wanted to say something, but nothing came. She slumped slightly in her chair, not fainting, just folding in. Then Derek lost it, again. He broke through one of the security guys, charged at me with pure rage. "You lying piece of shit." I didn't move. I didn't blink. Security caught him mid-lunge, dragging him back by his arms as he kicked and shouted like a toddler having a meltdown in public. "You're pathetic," he screamed. "You're just a parasite. You don't matter." I waited. I let him burn out. Then I stepped forward and said, calm as anything, "You let them break me." His body stilled, chest heaving. I held his stare. "And now you're broken." Security pulled him back one last time. He didn't fight. He just stood there, shoulders caved in, suit wrinkled, face red, breathing like he'd run a marathon in dress shoes. I turned back to the crowd. No more laughter, no fake smiles, just silence and shattered illusions. The first business partner stood up and walked out without a word. The next one, a guy in a tailored navy suit, paused long enough to slap Richard's shoulder. "You're done," he muttered, then followed the rest. Within minutes, almost half the room had emptied, and then the cameras showed up. Not phones, real cameras, crews from local stations, standing outside the glass doors with tripods and boom mics, waiting like vultures. Security tried to block them. Didn't matter. Word was already out. Janice? Gone. Vanished sometime during Derek's last tantrum. The bride's parents and the real estate moguls from Philadelphia stood at the head table like they were identifying a body. Her mother spoke first. "We want no association with this disgrace." Her father nodded, then added, "You'll be hearing from our lawyers." He looked at Derek like he wanted to spit. Derek didn't speak. Couldn't. He just stood there. Hands in his hair, shoulders sagging like his bones gave out. Richard tried to salvage it. Of course he did. He stood, raised his hands like a pastor begging for calm. "Listen, folks, this is a personal family matter. We will be addressing it privately. None of this reflects our company or values." Nobody was listening. People talked over him, pushed past him, turned their backs to him. He looked like a dictator giving one last speech while the palace burned behind him. Elaine didn't speak at all. She sat perfectly still, hands folded in her lap, eyes locked on the tablecloth. Not blinking, not crying. Just gone. The mask she'd spent 40 years painting had cracked wide open. I took a deep breath, grabbed my bag, and walked out the side exit. The air outside was cool, sharp, fall just starting to bite. I looked down at my phone. Live viewers, 3.8 million. I stood there for a second, under the night sky, surrounded by silence except for the muffled chaos echoing from inside. Then my phone buzzed. "Unknown number," I answered. "Brent," said a steady voice. "It's done. The SEC just opened a formal investigation. Your submission worked. They've already contacted us for follow-up." I didn't say anything. Didn't need to. I just smiled. I was halfway across the parking lot when I heard footsteps behind me, fast, clumsy. "Brent!" I didn't stop. "Brent, wait!" I turned, and there he was. Derek. His tie was gone, shirt untucked, sweat on his forehead. He looked like someone had chewed him up and spit him out onto the asphalt. His eyes were wild, red, desperate. "You ruined everything," he hissed, voice low, venom in every syllable. I let it sit. Then I said, "No. I just made sure people saw who you really are." That cracked him. He stumbled back a step, then pointed at me like a madman. "You were nothing. You are nothing. You were always jealous, always waiting for me to fall so you could feel better about yourself." I crossed my arms. "Keep going. Get it all out." He laughed, a bitter, broken laugh. "You think this makes you strong? You think any of this makes you the good guy? You burned it all down. My wedding, my company, my life." "I didn't burn anything," I cut in. "You built it out of lies. I just lit the match." He shook his head, hands gripping the sides of it like he could squeeze the reality away. "They lied to me too," he muttered almost to himself. "They made me believe I had to be perfect, that I had to win. I didn't even want half of this. But you took it anyway," I said. "And you let them crush me to do it." His mouth opened, then shut. Nothing came out. For the first time in his life, Derek Carter had no words. I turned and opened the car door. "Brent," he said again, softer now, "you can't just leave. What am I supposed to do?" I looked back one last time. He was standing alone in the lot, tux wrinkled, hair a mess, shoulders slumped. A crumpled version of the man who used to smirk while I got overlooked. "Goodbye, Derek." I got in, shut the door, started the engine, and drove away without looking back. The line stretched out the bookstore doors and wrapped around the block. I sat behind a folding table near the front window, Sharpie in hand, stack of books to my left. San Diego sunlight spilled through the glass, and even with the AC humming, it was hot. I didn't care. The sign behind me read, Brent Foster, out of the silence. Book signing, that was mine. Every word, every page. The memoir dropped 6 months ago. Hit #1 in 2 weeks. Now people flew out just to shake my hand. Survivors, readers, young guys with tired eyes and quiet voices. Guys who reminded me of who I used to be. The woman in front of me now had tears in hers. "Claire," she said, voice trembling, "your book saved my life." She handed me a copy with sticky notes in the margins, pages dog-eared. "I left my husband, took my daughter. We're living in Sacramento now." She smiled, wiped at her cheek. "I didn't think I could do it, but after reading what you went through..." I stood and hugged her, quick but real. "You did the hard part," I said. She shook her head. "You showed me it was possible." I signed her copy the same way I signed all of them. "Your voice has power. Don't be silent anymore. BF. Picture, handshake, next in line." Hours passed like that. People moved through steady, each with a story or a quiet thank you. And then I saw her. Plain clothes, no makeup, shoulders pulled in. Elaine. She stood near the end of the line, not hiding, not trying to draw attention, just waiting. When she stepped up to the table, she didn't speak right away. She looked older, softer, smaller. I closed the book I was signing. She met my eyes. "I left your father." I didn't say anything. "I started therapy. I live in Oregon now, with my sister." Still, no tears, no excuses, just facts. "I was cruel to you," she said. "There's no fixing it. I just wanted you to know I'm not pretending anymore." For a second, I felt 12 years old again, that raw ache in my chest, waiting for a scrap of affection. But I wasn't that kid, not anymore. I nodded once. "I'm glad you left him." She opened her mouth like she might say more, an apology maybe, but she didn't. Instead, she gave the tiniest smile. "You turned out better than any of us deserved." Then she turned and walked away. I didn't call after her, didn't ask for anything. I just let her go. She wasn't a part of my story anymore. That night, I sat in my hotel room, staring at the city lights. The book tour was almost over. One more stop. For the first time in my life, I felt clear. This wasn't just revenge. It was rebirth. I signed the last book of the night. The line was gone. Just empty chairs, scattered coffee cups, and the low hum of fluorescent lights overhead. The store clerk gave me a polite nod and started cleaning up. I leaned back in the folding chair, my wrist sore, Sharpie cap wedged between my fingers. The stack of signed books to my left was nearly as tall as the one I'd started with. I stared at the cover, out of the silence, my name underneath, bold and clean. Brent Foster. I closed the final copy and set it aside. Then I let myself think about it. That night, that damn wedding, the laughter, the slideshow, the smug faces, the humiliation they thought would break me. I waited for the ache, the usual sting in my chest. But nothing came. No pain, no weight, just relief. And something stronger than that. Freedom. I stood, stretched, grabbed my bag. The clerk locked the doors behind me as I stepped out. Cool air. Quiet sidewalk. Faint sound of traffic down the block. The Carter name didn't mean anything anymore. It was done, buried under the truth they tried so hard to hide. And mine? Brent Foster. It meant something now. Not fame, not money, not revenge. Truth. That was enough. I took one last look at the store, the poster in the window with my face on it. Then I whispered under my breath, "Your voice has power. Don't be silent anymore." And I won't be.